Explaining China's economic reforms and market liberalization 1978 onward. Jack and RJ. Before 1978, it was planned economy and private businesses were legal. Agriculture heavy, most of the resources were allocated to government-run collective farms, low productivity, and PPF is inside due to inefficiency. China's centrally planned economy gave the government full control over production and prices. Private trade was illegal, and individuals who tried were punished, sometimes severely. Industry was dominated by state-owned enterprises, but this system led to shortages, inefficiency, and low living standards. These are two men that were arrested. Before 1978, China's economy relied on collective farms called people's communes, where land and labor were state-controlled and private ownership was banned. Farmers had no decision-making power, worked to meet quotas, and were left with little food or income. The system aimed to boost output, but instead caused inefficiency, poverty, and stagnant rural growth. China's planned economy faced low productivity, corruption, and poor resource use. Without competition, state workers lacked incentives, while officials controlling quotas and supplies fueled bribery and black markets. Shortages and inefficiencies slowed growth, weakened trust, and built pressure for market reforms. China's production was below its potential due to inefficiency. Resources were misallocated, labor stuck in low productivity farming, and state enterprises ignored demand. With no market incentives, corruption and waste grew, leaving output low and living standards poor, driving the need for reform. Start of the reform. Deng Xiaoping started to reform and open up. Allowed private owned businesses, agriculture reforms, household responsibility system. Farmers can sell surplus crops to market to make money. Industrial reforms, start of market pricing, building special economic zones like Shenzhen to attract people and expand technological growth. Liberalization of service and trade open to global markets and encouraging export focused businesses. After Mao Zedong's death in 1976, China faced political and economic crisis. The Gang of Four was arrested, ending the Cultural Revolution at the third plenary session of the 11th Central Committee in 1978. Deng Xiaoping rose to power and shifted focus from class struggle to economic development. He launched the reform and opening up policy. Introducing China to market mechanisms, legalizing private businesses, and creating special economic zones, these political changes laid the foundation for China's transition from strict planned economy to a socialist market economy, opening the country to foreign trade and rapid modernization. This image shows China's first business license. In 1976, drought in Anhui pushed Zhaogang villagers to secretly adopt the household responsibility system, dividing land among families who kept surplus after meeting state quotas. Though illegal, it boosted output and living standards. Deng Xiaoping later expanded it nationwide, making it a key reform. China's industrial reforms introduced dual track pricing, mixing state set and market prices. This gave enterprises profit incentives, boosted growth, and reduced shortages. Though it also fueled corruption at the same time, special economic zones like Shenzhen attracted foreign investment and modeled efficiency-driven development. China opened to global markets by promoting exports, joint ventures, and foreign investment. Special economic zones like Shenzhen became manufacturing hubs, turning China into the world's factory. At the same time, rural labor migrated to coastal factories, boosting the efficiency, income, and poverty reduction. From 1978 to 1990s, reforms like the household responsibility system and special economic zones boosted farm output, freed labor for industry, and attracted investment. Efficiency improved, China's PPF expanded and the economy shifted from agriculture towards industrial growth with rising incomes.
Next era, China's mature market economy. China joined the World Trade Organization in 2001, opened international markets to Chinese goods and services while reducing trade barriers. It boosted export-oriented industry, attracting more foreign investment and advanced technologies. Chinese companies gained access to global supply chains. As a result, China experienced rapid industrial growth, rising employment, and higher income. China first built its economic strength through labor-intensive manufacturing, producing low-cost goods for global markets. Over time, rising wages and global competition forced a structural transformation. Capital and talent began to flow towards high-value sectors such as semiconductors. The shift is strategic, aiming to reduce dependence on foreign technology and secure dominant position in global supply chains. Cities like Shenzhen evolved from simple factory hubs into innovation centers, attracting venture capital and global talent. China's economy became more diversified, moving from the world's factory into a global innovation and service powerhouse. From 1978 to 2023, China's GDP grew from about 150 billion US dollar to over 70 trillion US dollar, and GDP per capita rose from under 200 to about $12,000. In this era, growth was driven by technology innovation as domestic firms moved from imitation to creation. This shift marked a transition from intensive growth based on resource reallocation to intensive growth fueled by knowledge and high-value industries. As China's economy advanced, its PPF shifted further outward, driven by technological progress, global trade, and foreign investment. Technological innovation improved productivity, allowing more output with the same resources. Global trade opened access to international markets, boosting exports and bringing advanced equipment and management practices. Foreign investments through SEZs provided capital, modern technology, and expertise. Accelerating industrial upgrading, these factors expanded China's productive capacity, enabling higher levels of both industrial and service output, reflecting a transition towards more an innovation-driven economy with stronger integration into global value chains. And the next sector was reform and open up brought to China. China underwent a dramatic industrial transformation, shifting from an economy dominated by agriculture to one centered on manufacturing and services. As markets opened, competition intensified, pushing firms to improve efficiency, reduce costs, and innovate, creating a more dynamic and productive economy. Through global integration, China became deeply embedded in international trade networks. It rose to become one of the world's leading exporters. China also emerged as a major global investor, financing infrastructure projects and business abroad, strengthening its role not just as a manufacturing hub, but as a driving force in the global economy. China's rapid economic reforms led to a remarkable improvement in personal living standards. By the early 2000s, hunger rates have fallen from 30% to below 5%. Thanks to higher agricultural productivity and rising household incomes, the Human Development Index rose from 0.410 in 1990 to 0.788 in 2023, reflecting better access to healthcare, education, and modern infrastructure. Meanwhile, urbanization accelerated dramatically in 1978. Only 18% of China's population lived in cities by 2023. This figure exceeds 66%, representing hundreds of millions of people moving from rural villages to urban centers for better jobs and services fueled by demand for housing, transportation, and public services. And dual-track pricing, China's early attempt to introduce markets alongside planned economy enterprises saw part of their output as slow state set prices, while surplus could be sold at higher market prices. This policy briefly eased shortages and gave firms some profit incentives, but it also created corruption because the same goods are sold at two different prices. Using the PPF, we can see that dual-track pricing moved China a bit closer to the frontier, but the inefficiency and distortions remain. In the long run, the system phase out is not a major force in China's economy today. Instead, it served as a temporary bridge towards border price and liberalization and full market reforms. In conclusion, China's reform is a great success to China's economy. It built today's China, making China a major player in the world's economy, leading China out of hunger and poverty, guaranteed Chinese people's living standard. Even though there are failed attempts like the dual-track pricing, but it cannot deny the success of China's current economy, which came from the reform.